Power has never been about physical strength alone. Throughout history, kings have commanded armies, emperors have ruled continents, and presidents have shaped the destiny of nations. Yet many of these powerful figures shared one common weakness. They underestimated intelligence. Not just intelligence in general, but the intelligence of people they believed they already understood. History reminds us that some of the greatest shifts in power did not begin on a battlefield. They began in private conversations, political negotiations, strategic alliances, and decisions made behind palace doors. Many of those decisions involved remarkably intelligent women. However, if you carefully study Machiavelli's philosophy, one principle appears again and again. The greatest threat to power is someone who cannot easily be predicted or controlled. That idea changes everything. Today, we're going to explore why intelligence can become intimidating to people who rely on power, why history is filled with examples of underestimated women changing the course of nations, and what Machiavelli's principles can teach us about influence in the modern world. Stay with me until the end, because the final lesson might completely change the way you think about power. Most people misunderstand power. They think power is money. Others think it is fame. Some believe it is authority. But Machiavelli looked much deeper. To him, power was the ability to influence outcomes. A king with a crown, but no loyal supporters, possessed fragile power. A wealthy merchant with no political influence possessed limited power. Even an emperor surrounded by thousands of soldiers could lose everything if he failed to understand human nature. Power, according to Machiavelli, depends on understanding people. People make decisions based on emotion. People protect their interests. People seek advantage. People respond to fear, hope, ambition, and survival. The individual who understands these motivations often has more influence than the individual with the highest title. This is where intelligence enters the picture. An intelligent person sees patterns that others overlook. They ask difficult questions. They observe instead of reacting. They recognize manipulation before it succeeds. That makes them incredibly difficult to control. And anyone who depends on controlling others will naturally become cautious around someone who thinks independently. Notice something important. This isn't about men versus women. It's about power encountering independent thought. Why intelligence changes the equation. Imagine you're negotiating with two different people. The first agrees with everything you say. They never question your motives. They accept every explanation. Predictable, easy, comfortable. Now imagine the second person. They listen quietly. They ask thoughtful questions. They notice contradictions. They understand incentives. They remain emotionally calm. Which conversation would make you work harder? Obviously the second. That is the difference intelligence creates. Machiavelli admired careful observation. He believed successful rulers studied human behavior constantly. An intelligent woman or an intelligent man often does exactly the same thing. Rather than reacting emotionally, they analyze. Rather than speaking first, they observe. Rather than accepting appearances, they search for reality. These habits create influence, not because intelligence is loud, but because intelligence is difficult to deceive. Why intelligence changes the equation. Imagine you're negotiating with two different people. The first agrees with everything you say. They never question your motives. They accept every explanation. Predictable, easy, comfortable. Now imagine the second person. They listen quietly. They ask thoughtful questions. They notice contradictions. They understand incentives. They remain emotionally calm. Which conversation would make you work harder? Obviously, the second. That is the difference intelligence creates. Machiavelli admired careful observation. He believed successful rulers studied human behavior constantly. An intelligent woman or an intelligent man often does exactly the same thing. Rather than reacting emotionally, they analyze. Rather than speaking first, they observe. Rather than accepting appearances, they search for reality. These habits create influence, not because intelligence is loud, but because intelligence is difficult to deceive. The danger of underestimation. History repeatedly demonstrates one dangerous habit among leaders. They often underestimate people who don't fit their expectations. Sometimes those people are younger, sometimes poorer, sometimes outsiders, sometimes women. And that mistake has changed history more than once. One of Machiavelli's greatest warnings is against misjudging circumstances. Confidence can become arrogance. Authority can become blindness. When leaders stop questioning their assumptions, they become vulnerable. Many powerful individuals assume intelligence must look a certain way. They expect confidence to be loud. They expect influence to be obvious. Yet some of history's most influential figures were patient, observant, and strategic. Their strength wasn't force. It was understanding. The power of observation. Observation is one of the rarest forms of intelligence. Most people enter a room wanting to be noticed. The observer enters a room wanting to understand. They notice who interrupts, who listens, who dominates, who avoids eye contact, who influences the group without speaking very much. These details reveal the true hierarchy. Machiavelli believed appearances often hide reality. The wise ruler looked beyond appearances. Likewise, intelligent individuals understand that the loudest voice isn't always the most influential. Sometimes the quietest person is collecting information everyone else is giving away. This ability can make others uncomfortable, not because observation is threatening, but because it exposes what people hoped would remain hidden. History's lessons. History offers remarkable examples of women whose intelligence reshaped politics. Cleopatra is often remembered for beauty, yet historians increasingly recognize her linguistic ability, diplomatic skill, and political strategy. She spoke multiple languages. She negotiated with Rome's most powerful leaders. She governed during one of history's most turbulent periods. Her greatest strength wasn't appearance. It was intellect. Then consider Elizabeth I. She inherited a kingdom surrounded by uncertainty. Instead of rushing into unnecessary wars, she carefully balanced diplomacy, religion, economics, and military strength. Her patience became one of England's greatest advantages. She understood timing. Timing is power. Machiavelli would have appreciated that lesson. Or think of Catherine the Great. She expanded Russia's influence not merely through force, but through administration, reform, and political calculation. Each of these women succeeded because they understood something larger than individual battles. They understood systems. Power belongs to those who understand systems, not simply individuals. The real reason some people feel threatened. Intelligence forces accountability. An intelligent person asks, "Why? What evidence supports this? What happens next? What are we seeing?" Questions like these expose weak arguments that can feel threatening to anyone whose influence depends on unquestioned authority. Again, this isn't unique to men. It applies to anyone who relies on status instead of substance. The strongest leaders welcome thoughtful questions. The weakest fear them. That distinction separates confidence from insecurity. Confidence doesn't fear intelligence. It values it. Insecurity sees intelligence as competition. And perhaps that is the deepest lesson of all. Before you go, remember this. Power doesn't always belong to the loudest person in the room. More often, it belongs to the one who understands people, masters emotions, and thinks several moves ahead. If today's discussion challenged the way you see power and influence, then this is only the beginning. In the next episode, we'll uncover another timeless Machiavellian principle, one that has shaped leaders, kingdoms, and empires for centuries. You won't want to miss it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. And tell me in the comments, do you think intelligence is the greatest form of power? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, remember, power begins with understanding, but lasting influence is built on wisdom and character. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. The issue isn't whether powerful men fear intelligent women. The issue is whether insecure power fears independent thinking. There is a profound difference.